South Africa is being a massive hypocrite. South Africa just filed a case against Israel for committing genocide, war crimes, and crimes against humanity against Palestinians in the Gaza Strip at the International Court of Justice. A 2-day public hearing began today where South Africa presented its case against Israel at the World Court. Now, on its own, this is the right thing for South Africa to be doing. It's good that we're condemning Israel for its war crimes and atrocities against the Palestinian people, including its indiscriminate bombing attacks against civilians, hospitals, schools, homes, and mosques. So far, Israel has killed over 20,000 Palestinians, including 10,000 children. It's left 1% of Gaza's population dead. So on its own, I do support South Africa condemning Israel's war crimes and campaigning for human rights for once. However, just like America, South Africa is being a hypocrite. For 2 years, Russia has been committing war crimes and atrocities against Ukrainian civilians. During the 2022 siege of the Ukrainian city of Mariupol, Russia killed 25,000 civilians, 6% of the city's population. In total, as many as 40,000 Ukrainian civilians have been killed by Russia. Russia has massacred unarmed civilians and left their bodies in the streets or in mass graves. And Russia has also destroyed schools, hospitals, and homes and left millions of Ukrainians displaced. It also cut off half of the Ukrainian population's access to electricity and destroyed water systems in Ukraine. Furthermore, Russia has kidnapped thousands of Ukrainian children, taken them to Russia, and forcibly adopted them into Russian families. And the forcible transfer of children from one ethnic group to another is considered an act of genocide. Last year, the International Criminal Court, which South Africa is a member of, issued an arrest warrant against Vladimir Putin for crimes against humanity for abducting Ukrainian children. How did South Africa respond? South Africa threatened to leave the International Criminal Court. During the massacre of Ukraine, South Africa has refused to condemn Russia. South Africa has claimed that it's neutral and that it's not taking sides and that both sides just need to come together and have peace talks. But at the same time, South Africa has blamed Ukraine's allies for this war rather than blaming Russia, the one who invaded Ukraine and is killing the Ukrainian civilians. South Africa also condemned the West for sanctioning Russia after it invaded Ukraine. And a year after the invasion, South Africa held military drills with Russia. Whenever the United Nations votes on the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, America is always one of the few countries that votes to side with Israel or votes to be neutral. And whenever the United Nations votes on the Russian-Ukrainian conflict, South Africa is always one of the few countries that votes to side with Russia or votes to be neutral. But then America always condemns Russia when it does war crimes, and South Africa always condemns Israel when it does war crimes. America gets a lot of criticism for being hypocritical, which it is, because it condemns Russia for killing Ukrainian civilians, but then it doesn't condemn Israel for killing Palestinian civilians. But South Africa is also hypocritical. When Russia commits war crimes against Ukrainian civilians, South Africa says, oh, we're neutral, we're not taking a side, and also threatens to leave the International Criminal Court. But when Israel commits war crimes against Palestinian civilians, then South Africa is shouting, genocide, and we stand with Palestine, and then files a case against Israel at the International Court of Justice. It's extremely hypocritical. Why does South Africa only care when Palestinian civilians die, but then doesn't give a shit when Ukrainian civilians die? Are war crimes only bad when your enemy does it? I often hear South Africans say that our country mustn't condemn Russia and must stand with Russia because Russia's our ally. So if your ally does war crimes, it's okay, but if your enemy does war crimes, that's a problem. But then by that logic, America shouldn't condemn Israel because, oh, America and Israel are allies. They've been allies for decades, so America shouldn't condemn Israel because they're allies. It's the same logic. Either you condemn all war crimes or you're a hypocrite, which America is a hypocrite, but South Africa is as well. The South African government is being morally inconsistent. If our government really cares about human rights for all, then it should be condemning war crimes no matter who does them. If Israel does war crimes, condemn Israel. If Russia does war crimes, condemn Russia. You can't just condemn your enemies and then give your allies a pass. That's not how it works. So I can't tell if South Africa's case against Israel is actually based on some moral opposition to war crimes and genocide, or if it's just playing some biased, politically motivated game. Because again, if South Africa really does care about civilians and human rights, why has it been quiet on Russia's war crimes? I don't know if they actually care about human rights or if they're just thinking in terms of, okay, Russia's our friend, so Russia, good job what you're doing, keep doing that. Israel, you're our enemy. Israel, what you're doing is bad, even though they're doing the same thing. Russia and Israel have both reduced cities to rubble. They've both killed tens of thousands of civilians. They've both destroyed schools, hospitals, and homes. They're both illegally occupying and annexing land, and they're both planning on doing ethnic cleansing. If you're against Benjamin Netanyahu, then you should be against Vladimir Putin, because they're both far-right war criminals who just want more land and more death. I do support South Africa's stance in the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, but I oppose its hypocrisy and its inability to condemn Russia when it commits mass murder.